The First 90 Days, by Michael D. Watkins. Introduction. She was brilliant. A star performer. Her name was Julia Gould, and for 8 years in the marketing department of a top electronics company, everything she touched turned to gold. Her intelligence, her focus, her sheer determination, it was the stuff of legends. The company saw it too. They marked her as high potential, a fast-track leader destined for the very top. And then, she got her shot. The big one. She was promoted to lead a major new product launch, a cross-functional team pulling in the best people from marketing, sales, R&D, and manufacturing. Her job was to be the conductor of this brilliant orchestra, to seamlessly guide their hottest new product from a concept in the lab to a phenomenon in the market. But the orchestra never played a single note. Julia ran into trouble almost immediately. You see, her success in marketing came from her extraordinary attention to detail. She was used to being the expert, to managing with authority, to making the final call. But this new role, it was different. It wasn't about being the smartest person in the room, it was about getting the smartest people in the room to work together. When she tried to micromanage the R&D experts and the manufacturing veterans, they didn't just push back, they challenged her very authority. Stung and feeling out of her depth, Julia retreated to what she knew best: marketing. She doubled down on the one part of the project where she felt in control, micromanaging her old marketing colleagues until they were completely alienated. The project stalled. The team fractured. And within a month and a half, Julia Gould, the high-potential star, was quietly moved back to the marketing department. Someone else was brought in to lead the team. Her big shot was over. Julia's story is a quiet tragedy that plays out every single day in companies, in organizations, and in teams all over the world. A smart, capable person is given a huge opportunity, and within a few short months, they fail. Not because they weren't talented, but because they failed to understand a fundamental rule of life: what got you here won't get you there. This is the treacherous landscape of every new beginning. And it's the subject of one of the most quietly influential business books ever written, The First 90 Days, by Michael D. Watkins. First published in 2003, this book became a global phenomenon, selling nearly 1 million copies and being translated into over 24 languages. It wasn't just a bestseller, it became what The Economist called the onboarding Bible, because Watkins did something no one had done before. He created a proven, systematic roadmap for navigating the most vulnerable and critical period of any leader's career. Today, we're going to walk through that roadmap. And I promise you, by the end of our time together, you will have a clear, powerful framework for turning any new opportunity, whether it's your first part-time job, the lead role in a school project, or a major career promotion, into a launchpad for success. You'll learn how to get up to speed faster and smarter, how to avoid the hidden traps that catch even the most brilliant people, and how to build the momentum you need to not just survive, but truly thrive. So let's begin. Book summary. Have you ever wondered why the President of the United States is given a first 100 days to prove himself? It's an unofficial grace period, a window of time where the world watches to see if he can set a new course and deliver on his promises. Well, Michael Watkins opens his book with a simple, powerful observation: the president may get 100 days, but you get 90. The actions you take during your first 3 months in any new role will largely determine whether you succeed or fail. It's a period of incredible opportunity, a chance to start fresh and make needed changes. But it's also a period of intense vulnerability. You don't have established relationships. You don't fully understand the culture or the politics. Everyone is watching you, trying to figure out who you are and what you stand for. And opinions, Watkins warns, form surprisingly quickly. Once they're formed, they are incredibly hard to change. To understand the stakes, he introduces a simple but profound concept: the break-even point. Imagine a simple graph. When you start a new role, you are a net consumer of value. You're learning, you're asking questions, you're taking up other people's time. You're consuming more from the organization than you are contributing. The break-even point is that magic moment when the graph crosses the line, the point where you have contributed just as much value as you have consumed. From that day forward, you are a net creator of value. So, how long does it take the average manager to reach this point? Watkins surveyed hundreds of CEOs, and their estimate was a staggering 6.2 months. For over half a year, the typical new leader is a net drain on the organization. The entire purpose of the first 90 days is to give you a system to dramatically shorten that time by as much as 40%. It's about reaching that break-even point faster, so you can start building what Watkins calls a virtuous cycle of success. But before we get to the virtuous cycle, we have to understand its dark twin, the vicious cycle. This is where most transitions go wrong. It starts with a simple mistake. A new leader, feeling the pressure to act, makes a bad decision. Maybe they come in with the answer, assuming what worked in their last job will work here. That's what happened to a manager named Chris Hadley. Chris was a star at his old company, Dura, which had a world-class software development process. When he was hired to turn around a struggling unit at a new company, Phoenix Systems, he didn't waste any time. He came in, declared their existing processes outdated, and immediately started rebuilding the operation the Dura way. He didn't take the time to learn. He didn't talk to the people who had been keeping the unit afloat for years with limited resources. He just acted. The result? Within a month, productivity plummeted. Morale collapsed. His boss told him, "You've alienated just about everyone." Chris had fallen into a classic trap, and it triggered a vicious cycle. Watkins lays out this cycle perfectly. It begins with inadequate learning. Because you don't learn, you make bad decisions. Those bad decisions cause you to lose credibility. When your credibility is shot, people become resistant. They stop sharing information with you, which leads to even more inadequate learning, and the downward spiral takes hold. So how do you avoid this? You flip the script. You aim, from day one, to create a virtuous cycle. A virtuous cycle starts with focused learning. Because you learn, you make good initial decisions. Good decisions build your credibility. When people trust you, they open up, helping you build supportive alliances and accelerating your learning even more. This creates momentum, an upward spiral of increasing effectiveness that carries you past the break-even point and toward real success. The rest of the book is a masterclass in how to build this virtuous cycle, piece by piece. It's not a checklist, but a holistic system. And it starts not with action, but with introspection. The inner game, preparing and managing yourself. Before you can hope to lead a new team or a new project, you have to lead yourself. Watkins says the biggest pitfall for any new leader is assuming that what made you successful in the past will continue to make you successful now. This was Julia Gould's fatal mistake. She was a brilliant marketing specialist, but her new role required her to be a cross-functional generalist. She failed because she couldn't make the mental break from her old job. So, the first step is to consciously prepare yourself. This means letting go of the old and embracing the new. It means understanding that your strengths can actually become your weaknesses. If you're a details person, you might be prone to micromanaging. If you're a big picture thinker, you might miss critical operational issues. Watkins provides a simple but powerful exercise to identify your vulnerabilities. He asks you to rate your interest, not your skill, but your genuine interest, in solving different types of business problems, technical, political, and cultural. Most of us gravitate toward the problems we enjoy. If you love the technical stuff, markets, technologies, processes, but have little interest in the cultural or political side, you have a massive blind spot. You're at risk of being brilliant on paper but failing to understand the human dynamics that actually get things done. Recognizing these vulnerabilities isn't a sign of weakness, it's the first step toward building a plan to compensate for them. But preparing yourself is only half of the inner game. As you move through the transition, you also have to manage yourself. This is where the story of Steven Erickson is so powerful. Steven was a star executive who took a promotion from New York to Toronto. He thought it would be an easy move. But his new work culture was different, less direct, more consensus-driven, and he struggled to adapt. At the same time, his family life was thrown into chaos. His wife and 2 children were unhappy about the move, the schools weren't right, and the stress began to mount. Steven found himself commuting between 2 cities, his family life unraveling and his work performance suffering. He was caught in a vicious cycle, and eventually, he had to tell his company he would either return to New York or quit. Steven's story illustrates a critical lesson. You cannot create value at work if you are destroying value at home. A transition puts immense stress on you and your support systems. To manage yourself, Watkins says you need to rely on 3 pillars. The first is simply applying the strategies in this book to create a sense of control. The second is enforcing personal disciplines, like planning your day, focusing on what's important, and knowing when to quit to avoid burnout. But the third pillar is perhaps the most important: building your support systems. This means stabilizing your home front, especially if you've relocated. And it means building an advice and counsel network. You need 3 types of advisors: technical advisors who are experts in the business, political counselors who can help you navigate the organization's informal power structures, and cultural interpreters who can help you understand how things really work around here. No one succeeds alone, and in a transition, this network is your lifeline. Once you have your inner game in order, you can turn your attention outward. The outer game: learning and strategy. The single most important task in your first few weeks is to accelerate your learning. Remember Chris Hadley, the manager who failed because he brought the Dura way to his new company? He fell prey to what Watkins calls the action imperative, the compulsive need to do something just to prove yourself. But early action without deep learning is just guessing. Watkins argues that you should treat learning as a formal investment process. Your time is your capital. You need to invest it where you'll get the highest return in the form of actionable insights. This starts with creating a learning agenda. He provides a brilliant framework for this, built around asking questions about the past, the present, and the future. Past: how did we get here? What efforts have been made to change things before, and what happened? Who has been instrumental in shaping this organization? Present: what is our stated strategy, and are we really pursuing it? Who is capable and who is not? Who has influence and why? What are the hidden landmines I need to avoid? Future: what are our biggest challenges and opportunities? What are the most formidable barriers to change? This isn't just about reading reports. It's about talking to people, customers, suppliers, frontline employees, and especially the natural historians, those old-timers who know where all the bodies are buried. To make this process even more powerful, Watkins suggests asking a standard set of 5 questions to everyone you meet, especially your new direct reports. 1. What are the biggest challenges the organization is facing? 2. Why are we facing these challenges? 3. What are the most promising unexploited opportunities? 4. What would need to happen to exploit these opportunities? 5. And the killer question: if you were me, what would you focus on? By asking everyone the same questions, you can quickly see where perceptions align and where they diverge. It tells you about the business, and it tells you a lot about the people on your team. This structured learning process provides the raw material for the next critical step. You must match your strategy to the situation. This might be the most powerful and original idea in the entire book. Watkins argues that too many leaders have a one-size-fits-all approach to leadership. There's a hammer, and every problem looks like a nail. But the strategy that works brilliantly in one situation can be a disaster in another. To solve this, he created the STARS model. STARS is an acronym for 5 common business situations you might be entering: startup, turnaround, accelerated growth, realignment, and sustaining success. A startup is when you're building something from scratch, a new business, product, or team. The challenge is creating structure from chaos, but the opportunity is you get to do things right from the beginning. A turnaround is the classic burning platform. The business is in deep trouble, and everyone knows it. This requires rapid, decisive action: ready, fire, aim. You have to make tough calls with incomplete information. Accelerated growth is about managing a runaway success. The challenge is putting systems and processes in place to scale the business without killing the entrepreneurial spirit that made it successful. A realignment is perhaps the trickiest situation. The business was once successful, but it's drifting into trouble. The storm clouds are on the horizon, but many people are in denial. Your biggest challenge isn't fixing the business, it's convincing people there's a problem in the first place. Sustaining success is about taking over a winning team. The challenge is to preserve what makes it great while finding ways to take it to the next level, all while living in the shadow of your successful predecessor. The story of Carl Lewin brings this model to life. Carl was a hard-driving executive who had just engineered a brilliant turnaround of his company's European operations. He was a hero. He came in, centralized functions, closed inefficient plants, and made tough calls. It worked perfectly. Then, he was promoted to lead the North American operations. But North America wasn't in crisis. It was a classic realignment. Performance was slipping, but the organization was complacent, addicted to firefighting instead of prevention. If Carl had used the same heroic turnaround tactics here, he would have been rejected by the organization's immune system. Instead, he recognized he was in a different situation. He had to act less like a hero and more like a steward, patiently building awareness, using data to pierce through denial, and carefully cultivating consensus for the need for change. The STARS model gives you a language to diagnose your situation. And you're almost never in just one. You're likely managing a portfolio of stars. You might be in a realignment overall, but have one project that's a startup and another that's in turnaround. Diagnosing your portfolio allows you to tailor your approach to each part of your new responsibility. With a clear strategy in mind, you can now focus on the people who will help you execute it. The people game: negotiating, building, and aligning. Your success depends on other people. And there is no single relationship more important than the one you have with your new boss. Watkins says you must proactively negotiate success. This isn't about asking for a raise, it's about shaping the game so you have a fighting chance to win. The story of Michael Chen is a perfect example. He was promoted to a new role, and his friends immediately warned him, "Start updating your resume. Your new boss, Vaughn Cates, is going to eat you alive." Cates was known for being incredibly tough and impatient. Michael knew their styles would clash. He was a planner and a team builder. So, what did he do? He didn't just react, he set the terms. He went to Vaughn and said, "I want to operate on a 90-day time frame. Give me 30 days to get on top of things, and then I will bring you a detailed plan for the next 60 days. He proactively managed her expectations. he negotiated for the time he needed to learn. And by delivering a strong plan at the end of 30 days, he began to build credibility. Watkins structures this negotiation around 5 critical conversations you must have with your boss. 1. The situational diagnosis conversation. Get on the same page about the STARS situation you've inherited. 2. The expectations conversation. Clarify what success looks like, how it will be measured, and when results are expected. 3. The style conversation. Discuss how you can best work together. How does your boss prefer to communicate? What decisions does she want to be involved in? 4. The resources conversation. Negotiate for the people, funding, and political support you'll need to succeed. 5. The personal development conversation. After a few months, check in on how you're doing and where you need to improve. These 5 conversations provide the foundation for a productive relationship with your boss. But you also inherit a team, and you must build your team to fit your new strategy. This is like repairing a leaky ship in the middle of the ocean. You can't ignore the necessary repairs, but you also can't try to change too much too fast and sink the ship. The process starts with a rigorous assessment of the people you've inherited. Are they A players, B players, or C players? Watkins provides a great framework for this, evaluating people on competence, judgment, energy, focus, relationships, and trust. Crucially, you can't make these decisions in a vacuum. Your team has to align with your organization's new direction and the STARS situation. A person who is a player in a sustaining success environment might be a C player in a fast-paced turnaround. Once you've assessed your people, you can decide whether to keep them in place, develop them, move them to another position, or replace them. The key, Watkins stresses, is to work on organizational alignment and team development in parallel. You can't pick the right crew until you know your destination and what kind of ship you have. But even with a great boss and a great team, you're still not guaranteed to succeed. In most roles, your success depends on your ability to influence people over whom you have no direct authority. You must create alliances. Alexia Belenko learned this the hard way. She was a rising star who took on a new regional marketing role. She developed a brilliant business case for a much-needed change. But when she presented it, she was met with resistance from both corporate headquarters and the country managers she was trying to help. Her rational plan crashed against the rocks of organizational politics. She had authority on paper, but she failed to map the influence landscape. Watkins says you have to think like a political strategist. You need to identify whose support is essential for your key initiatives to succeed. Who are your potential supporters? Who are your opponents? And, most importantly, who are the persuadables, the swing voters you need to win over? For each of these pivotal people, you need to understand their motivations, the situational pressures on them, and how they perceive their own alternatives. Armed with this insight, you can craft influence strategies to build your winning coalition. Finally, with your strategy set and your people aligned, it's time to take action. The action game: winning and aligning. Your ultimate goal is to build momentum. And momentum comes from results. You need to secure early wins. Early wins are not just about picking low-hanging fruit. A true early win does 2 things. It builds your personal credibility in the short term, and it helps you make progress toward your longer-term business goals. Elena Lee's story is a masterclass in this. Promoted to head customer service, her goal was to improve slumping satisfaction scores. But she also wanted to change the authoritarian culture. She started by focusing on a few key managers who were resisting the new, more participative approach. By decisively dealing with them, placing them on performance plans and replacing one, she sent a powerful symbolic message. This was a teachable moment that showed everyone what she stood for. Then, she launched a specific project, led by her best people, to introduce new metrics for customer satisfaction. This project was an early win that not only improved business results but also modeled the new, collaborative behavior she wanted to encourage. Early wins are the first wave of change. The next wave involves a deeper, more structural change. You must achieve alignment. The higher you rise in an organization, the more you become an organizational architect. Your job is to ensure that the key elements of the organization are all working together in harmony. Watkins identifies 4 key architectural elements. 1. Strategic direction, the mission, vision, and strategy. 2. Structure, how people are organized and how work is coordinated. 3. Core processes, the systems used to get work done. 4. Skill bases, the capabilities of your people. If these elements are misaligned, you will feel like you're pushing a boulder uphill every day. Hannah Jaffe, a new VP of HR, saw this firsthand. She joined a company where senior executives were in open conflict. The CEO was convinced the problem was the people. But Hannah diagnosed the root cause. The organizational structure and incentive system were pitting business units against each other. She knew that no amount of team building would fix the problem until the architecture was put right. It took time, but she patiently made her case, and once the company was restructured, the conflicts disappeared and growth resumed. Her story reveals the final, powerful idea of the book. While the first 90 days is a guide for individual leaders, its principles can be scaled to transform an entire organization. Accelerate everyone. Think about it. In a typical large company, about a quarter of all managers change jobs every single year. Each one of those transitions impacts the performance of roughly a dozen other people, their bosses, their peers, and their direct reports. The ripple effects are enormous. What if, Watkins asks, an organization adopted a common framework, a shared language for managing all of these transitions? What if every time a new leader started, their boss, their team, and their peers all understood the STARS model, the 5 conversations, and the importance of securing early wins? Conversations would become dramatically more efficient. Support would become systematic, not accidental. By creating a system to accelerate everyone, a company can turn a source of risk and disruption into a powerful engine for performance and a true competitive advantage. The businesses that help their people get up to speed faster will be the ones that are more nimble, more responsive, and ultimately, more successful. And it all starts with that one individual, facing that one new role, armed with a plan for those first 90 days. Commentary. As we wrap up our journey through the first 90 days, it's worth taking a moment to reflect on why this book has had such an enduring impact. On the surface, it's a business book filled with frameworks and case studies. But beneath that, it's tapping into a universal human experience, the anxiety and excitement of a new beginning. We've all felt it. The first day of a new school, the first practice with a new team, the first day at a new job. It's a moment of profound uncertainty. We want to make a good impression, we want to prove ourselves, but we don't yet know the rules of the game. What Michael Watkins did so brilliantly was to take this chaotic, emotional experience and impose a structure on it. He created a system for something that feels deeply personal and unpredictable. The most powerful lesson, for me, is that success in a new role is not a function of your pre-existing brilliance or charisma. It's a function of your discipline and your process. The smartest person in the world can fail if they fall into the action imperative trap and act before they learn. Meanwhile, a more moderately talented person who systematically diagnoses their STAR situation, negotiates expectations with their boss, and focuses on securing early wins can achieve extraordinary success. The book democratizes success by making it a result of deliberate practice, not just innate talent. It redefines what it means to be strong in a new role. Strength isn't about coming in with all the answers. It's about having the humility to ask the right questions. It's about having the patience to learn before you act. And it's about having the strategic foresight to build the relationships and alliances you'll need before you face a crisis. So, how can you start applying these ideas right now, even if you're not starting a new job tomorrow? Here are a few simple actions to get you started. First, master the 5 questions. The next time you're talking to someone about their work, a parent, a mentor, or a friend who's frustrated with their job, try asking them Watkins' 5 magic questions. What are your biggest challenges? Why? What are the biggest opportunities? And especially, if you were the boss, what would you focus on? This simple act of structured inquiry will not only give you incredible insight into their world, but it will also build your muscle for diagnostic thinking. Second, diagnose your current situation using the STARS model. You don't have to wait for a new role to use this powerful lens. Is that big project you're leading for school a startup? Is your sports team in a realignment, struggling to recapture its former glory? Is your part-time job in a sustaining success mode? Just by putting a name to your situation, you gain a new level of clarity about the unique challenges you face and the right strategies to use. And third, start a simple learning journal. You don't need anything fancy. At the end of each day for the next week, just take 5 minutes to answer a single question. What was the most important thing I learned today, and how can I use it? This small habit builds the discipline of reflection and active learning, which is the absolute foundation of any successful transition. In the end, the first 90 days is about more than just a job. It's a guide to managing change. Every new school year is a transition. Every new relationship is a transition. Every attempt to build a new habit is a transition. Each one comes with its own learning curve, its own set of stakeholders, and its own opportunity to build momentum or fall into a vicious cycle. The principles Watkins lays out provide a timeless and universally applicable guide for navigating these new beginnings with confidence, grace, and a clear plan for success. That was a summary of the first 90 days by Michael D. Watkins. We've explored the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you make the journey yourself. The true power of a great book lies in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with your own life in a way you never expected. This summary is your guide to help you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've discussed today has sparked your curiosity or resonated with your own ambitions, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about absorbing information. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you approach every new chapter of your life. A link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please show your support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.